Okay, so everyone, we're back with the third video in our playlist series. So this is going to be the third hooping of the project. So this is going to put the other two pieces together. So if you didn't watch the second video in the playlist, which is creating the back and the pocket, you'll need to watch that and then come back here and we'll put it all together. So I went ahead and hooped up poly mesh again, another size 3 zipper in the same color. You could change it up however you want. One of the things you want to make sure that you do is have the zipper pull on the same side as your pocket. I've done that before where one's going one way, one's going the other way. That's not, obviously ideal. So my zipper is going to be going this way. So this is a top zip. So you're going to have several lines here. So I'm going to discuss that. So this is the top of the bag. This is your center line of the zipper. This is the bottom of the zipper. And then this line here is where we're going to line up the pocket. So where you want to line your zipper up is the bottom of the zipper tape just above that bottom placement line. And you want to make sure, again, that the zipper head is out of the way and the tail's out of the way of the placement stitching. The zipper, again, same size. It's just really large, and that's fine. But you want to be able to see the zipper placement line. Then you know that it's straight and it's on the right spot. You can use that center line as well. I don't. Some people like it. I don't really find it helpful, but I just line it up to the bottom here, and that works out every time. So again, tape it into place. If your foot height doesn't adjust, your foot can drag on the zipper. So especially on the top zip, because of where the foot hits and the back of your foot could hit. So just make sure this is nice and secure. Here's a nice close-up. Okay, so the next step is going to go ahead and tack your zipper into place. Okay, so the zipper is tacked into place and we are going to have to cut out the zipper just like we did on the other one. So I'm not going to mark this one, but it's the same concept that, excuse me, that you need to cut out the area where your zipper is tacked into place, which for a top zip is right along the top here. And you want to be sure not to trim those stitches. Otherwise your zipper will shift and we don't want that. And then just above the bottom tack down stitch of the zipper. Okay, so you'll see this is the placement line for the zipper, the full zipper. Then this is our pocket line here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead while we're working on the back side, attach our liner, which I'm going to use the orange fabric for the liner. I love this. It's so pretty. I love this color. Okay, it's a little big, and I think, let me see. I'm going to trim it down just a bit. You actually saw this fabric just a minute ago in my quilting mess up video, or a portion of that video. But just to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and trim this down. Okay. So we're going to place our liner just like we did on the pocket, right side down, and line up the bottom just under the zipper tape. Make sure that it's straight. And go ahead and secure the fabric so it doesn't shift. So one on either side, one at the center line here. Okay, so we have the liner tacked down on the back side. Had to take a little bit of a weird pause. So we are going to now place the front of the bag, which again is going to be the pocket liner. The full front is one piece of fabric. So you're going to place it just like your liner, right side down, just at the edge of the zipper tape. And I'm going to go ahead and tape this into place. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you that once I was testing this, I realized an error in the pocket. So I remade the pocket offline. So the pocket zipper is a different color, but we will discuss that when we get to attach it, why I went ahead and remade that. So Okay, so once you have these two fabrics in place, you're going to go ahead and run the next step, which is going to tack them down. And then we will come back and we're going to attach the batting. All right, the two pieces of fabric are now attached here. So the next step is going to be the batting. And again, the batting doesn't run the whole length of the bag. If you would like it to, you can do that. And if you want to do that, you'll just skip this step that we're going to do to tack this little piece into place. You would just put the batting the whole length, just like you did with the pocket, and fold over your fabric and then tack everything down as normal. So something I definitely might do with the larger bag, but again, my machine can handle that. All right, so we're going to take your batting, and this line here, this is your placement area for batting. So you're going to go ahead and just place your batting down. You can even, actually it doesn't matter, you can just cover up all of those lines. The next step is going to tack this into place, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim it quickly off camera, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, moving on. Batting is tacked down and trimmed, so you're just going to trim it like you would an applique. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be sandwiched in your fabric. So the next step is going to be to fold over the front of your bag and secure it. And then the next step is going to tack the front of your bag down here, just around the outer edge, just like any of our other bags. And then the step after that will be the quilting just on the top portion where the batting is and the top stitch. So I'm going to run both of those steps, and then we're going to come back and we're going to work on the pocket. Okay, so we're getting to the good stuff here. The quilting is ran. Again, the front is tacked into place. So I'll talk about what exactly happened with the front pocket. So this is, again, the smallest, not the smallest, the 5x7 is the smallest, but that's very similar in size to this one. So the two smallest bags definitely are the most challenging to get in proportion. And that top piece of fabric was way too big for what we're trying to achieve. So I had to adjust the size of the top portion of the pocket. Also, I misspoke. I had forgotten I added this tack down stitch to around that top piece of fabric. So you really don't need to get the measurement exactly correct anymore because I tacked it all into place. So as long as you trim it as I've instructed and in the PDF, then you're good to go. So again, if you don't cut it just about like above that top line, then your whole thing's going to shift down and look really weird. Your zipper's going to be down too low. So again, the zipper color is different. I didn't have another dark purple, so whatever. All right, so here's my pocket. And I went ahead and marked center on the front and back right here. It's hard to see because the pen is actually purple. And then on the quilting, you have there's a bottom stitch line. And what you're going to do is you can even mark center here. So here is center. So here's my hoop center. This is center. You're going to take your pocket and you're going to flip it right side down, and you're going to line up the edge of the pocket, just covering that placement stitch. And this one I will secure so it doesn't shift. Otherwise your pocket is going to be, not straight. So my center two lines are together. The next step is going to stitch a straight line right across the top. It's going to be very close. And what's going to happen is once you stitch that line, when we flip it over, your top stitch is going to encase all of your raw edge. So when we come back, I've trimmed mine very close, so I shouldn't have to trim once I tack it into place. You just need to be mindful that it's going to be very close to the edge, which is how it should be, but sometimes people, things shift. So make sure it's caught, and then when we come back, we shouldn't have to trim it, but if you do, you need to trim off the excess, and then we will flip the pocket over. Okay, so our pocket's in place, and one thing I didn't note is leaving your zipper mostly closed or almost to the edge for that step is ideal. It's going to help keep everything straight. Also, your cutaway actually keeps right here helps keep your zipper together on both sides. So you can see that doesn't come apart as easily, which is good because the next step you have to have it open. So you can see my raw edge is very, very close to that, very, very close, which is good because now I don't have to trim any of this. So when you flip over your pocket, you're going to finger press it down. The top stitch is going to come right under here and it's going to enclose all of that raw edge. So you're going to flip your pocket over and you will have about, I don't know, an inch, 3/4 of an inch at the bottom excess. That's on purpose. So just know this is much bigger, so it's easier to place. And just in case you mess up, you have plenty of quilting. So I'm going to go ahead and tape here at the zipper on both sides and make sure that tape is outside the stitch lines. I don't sew through this transport tape. It's not good and it'll gum up your needle. If you want to, you can put a little piece of tape there to keep it flat and one piece down here. So the next step is going to go all the way around the outside. So it's basically doing another, I'm going to tack all of this into place. And actually we're going to do the liner at the same time. So we have everything in the front tacked down. We're going to flip over. Typically the bags, the liner is separate, but because this one, you're not going to put anything on the front, the liner goes at the same time. So fold your liner over. So liner, fold over. Pocket, fold it over. Again, it's going to come down around the side, bottom, and up the side to tack everything into place. Okay, so we have the top stitch on the top of the little fabric strip and around the sides. The liner looks great. I would go ahead and take off this tape so it doesn't drag on your machine. Okay, I'm going to remove the tape. This isn't really necessary anymore. Remove that tape. This is fine, doesn't matter. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to open the top zipper. So now you have both zippers open. If you want any hardware, this is where you would place it. You could use the basting stitch to tack it into place. If you wanted to put like a strap, I would definitely recommend doing it up here, not at the zipper. That's going to be very bulky. So either right here at the top or possibly underneath might be a little too low. So it's up to you. All right. So the back is the final, not the final step, second to final step. So what I did when I digitized this, the foot for the basting stitch, which is what we're going to do next, is going to start center of the left side of the bag here. So the easiest way I find to line up the back is to, if you have a single needle, your foot should go immediately to that point. So you know your needle is going to go down right there. And even some have a laser, you can see exactly where it's going to start that stitch. If you're on a multi-needle, if you hit +1, it's going to move to that exact spot. So it's easier to line up. Now you might not see exactly where the needle is going to go, but your foot will be in place or hovering above where the stitch is going to start. So what I do when I get, and I adjust this as I get to my machine. So make sure your back is the correct way. This is a directional print. So what I do is I take the top line here and I put it just above the zipper tape because the tack down line is going to be below that zipper tack right here. Okay, so your outer edge. And then when I get to my machine, I make sure that my needle is going to start inside of the tack down line on the back. You have about an inch around, so a ½ inch on either side that you have for wiggle room to move the back. But if you get that needle started a ¼ inch to a ½ inch in and you line up that top, then you should be pretty center. So the next step is going to baste the back into place, which is a nice long stitch length. So if you need to pop it out because your back is not centered, it's nice and easy to rip out. So we do this with a lot of, I think almost every quilted bag has a basting stitch, which is very helpful. So you're going to run the basting stitch If your back looks okay, it's nice and straight, you're happy with it, you'll run the next step, which is going to permanently tack your back into place. So I'm going to go ahead and run both of those steps and then come back and we'll attach the liner, and then that's it for construction of this bag. All right, we're at the final stitching step. I am so excited. So my back is in place. You can see the seam allowance that you have to get that back center, and I used the technique that I just explained, so you can see it's almost perfectly center, which on the first try, that's awesome. All right, so the final step is you're going to turn to the back of your hoop, and we're going to place the back liner, which excuse me, is the orange fabric, and you're going to place it right side down and just maybe a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch over that zipper tape. You want to make sure you leave enough down here, fabric down here, so that you have your excess to create your turn hole to close it up. So this part, I always say when I have a class, is the part that you're going to mess up on, and that's because people don't watch the liner. They either don't tape it sufficiently, or they put it back on the machine and they don't check that everything is straight on the machine bed, and then your liner gets you know, just slightly tangled up under there, and you pull it off and you have all this stitching to pick out. So make sure you tape sufficiently. When you put it back on the flatbed, make sure it's still straight, then go ahead and run the final step, which is the liner. Okay, so the bag is done. You can see here's where the turn hole was left. All the stitching looks good. Before you pull it out, make sure there's no wrinkles on your liner. So we're gonna go ahead and remove it from the hoop. And I'm gonna go ahead and trim off some of this excess cutaway before we get into the actual trimming part. You can cut off excess zipper tape as well. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and mark. It's a little hard to see because obviously we're using white bobbin, but the liner creates the whole opening for your enclosure, for your turn hole, and then how you enclose everything. So this is the turn hole. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut on either side and then around your bag, and you're gonna leave this fabric here. And I get pretty close to the seam or to the stitching. What I like to do is start on the back, get the 2 notches, and then I flip it over and I trim maybe an 1/8 or a 1/16 around the bag edge. So I'm going to do that off camera for time. And so once we get that all trimmed, then we're going to go ahead and flip it right side out.